Hello everyone, my name is Sumit and welcome to my channel. It's been a while since I've recorded something and uploaded on YouTube, so busy with a lot of things. But today I'm going to start a new series on the Jobava London. So a little bit about Jobava London. I've been playing this opening since 2021 and with reasonable results. And the most important thing about this opening is it's very easy to learn and you don't have to memorize long variations except in a few cases. You can play in general ideas and the development won't be an issue and you won't get into difficult position if you're careful. So without further ado, let's get started. So I have divided this course into multiple segments. So in this first segment, we are going to look at d4, Nf6, Nc3, e5, and bishop to f4. This is what we are going to look at today. So this is a very common reply, which is e6. But black can play g6 in this position. a6 is possible, bishop f5, c6, and a few other moves are also possible, but knight c6 is a blunder because after knight c6 you can play knight to b5 and black not defend the c7 pawn, and black will be forced to play e5, and after bishop takes e5, knight takes e5, pawn takes e5, knight e4, and queen d5, queen d5, knight to c7 check, 8, 95. White wins 2 pawns without any compensation, and black is completely busted in this position. And same thing will happen if they play knight to e7 here. You can play knight b5, and black won't be able to do c7. So these are the two common traps that you should know in Jobava London. So the most common move is after bishop 4 is e6. So I have opened the Stockfish engine here, and you can see the evaluation bar. It's 0.0, and you can see the positions and the variations played by masters. The moves played by masters here is played. So I have enabled the master database here first. So the most common move is either knight b5 or e3, but e3 is not that great because of bishop to b4, and this pin is very annoying, and it's very difficult to get an advantage with the white pieces. Because after bishop to e3 and c5, which is very critical, e takes c5, and here knight bd7, black equalizes. Black and castle will take on c5, and white will have to move this bishop somewhere, or this bishop, or give away this bishop, and then black is much better because the light squared bishop is the most critical piece. A lot of variations in the law. Sometimes you give up this piece for the a6 knight, sometimes, which we'll look at after some time. And this position is actually pretty equal, with a slight advantage for black. See that it's minus 0.5. So e3 is not a great move. So what I would play in this position, and it is recommended by Simon Williams, Noritsky, and Botnick. They have released courses on Jobava London. And Simon Williams is the person who introduced Jobava London to me. So the best move I think in this position is knight to b5, right? Putting immediately the pressure on c7. And in this position there are mainly 3 moves. In this position there are 3 moves. The most common move for amateurs, will play is bishop to d6. In this position there are 3 moves. Basically the most common is bishop to d6. This move is favored by the amateurs, but giving away your bishop for knight is not that great. after knight takes bishop, pawn takes, and e3, castle, knight f3, knight c6, c3, rook e8, h3, e5, bishop h2, and maybe bishop f5, bishop e2, queen b6, queen b3, and white has got a nice position because of the weaknesses of the pawns on d6 and d5. So it's a very pleasant position for white actually today. The plans are pretty straightforward. Taking on b, if black takes on b3, a b3, and the a5 will be activated there. And let's see this variation. Queen takes b3, queen takes b3, rook c8, castle, and cd4, cd4. Although white has got double pawns here, white has got an advantage because after our rook e d8, because the rook is not doing anything here, rook fc1, a6, and white can maneuver his knight to e1 to d3, controlling a lot of squares. I mean, these are not force moves. Black can play differently as well. In this position, black can probably play queen c7. And the general idea is white to castle and put rooks on c1 and d1, and ultimately pressurize these pawns on d6 and d5, either by playing c4 directly or putting more pressure on the d6 pawn. So here, black can continue rook c8. So after queen a4, a6, castle, bishop g6, and rook b1, rook c8, rook c1, and white is doing very well in this position. You can see that all white's pieces are harmoniously developed, and he has pressure on the c and d files, and the queen is actually on a very healthy square on a4. So this is what you have to do when you encounter bishop to d6. Now let's look at another variation. d4, knight f6, knight c3, d5, bishop f4, and d6, knight b5, and now let's look at knight to a6. So knight to a6 is actually the most common move that people play from my experience, and the idea is to defend a6. So this is what we want to provoke, to provoke the knight to go to a6, and the black knight is misplaced on a6 actually, and our knight on b5 is very well placed. Here you play e3. Now there are few moves here. Before bishop b4 check is bad because of c3, bishop e7, and I can play knight f3, bishop d3, a4. All these moves are fine. So bishop b4 check is not good. So the most common reply that you might encounter is 6, and after knight to c3, black can play knight to c7, knight to f3, bishop to b6. It's a very common way black would play this position. And whenever you see bishop develop on d6, you have to put knight between the two bishops, knight to e5, black castles, and bishop d3. White develops harmoniously. Both his bishops are on active diagonals. Knights are very well placed. The e5 knight is very well placed on e5, and knight on c3 is actually defending the e5. So compared to white's development, black's minor pieces are actually misplaced. At least the knight on c7 is misplaced, and the bishop on c8 is yet to be developed. So here it's very difficult for black to coordinate his pieces because of the misplacement of the knight on c7. So either he will try to push c5 or I can play knight to c8, knight c2 e8, and your idea is pretty straightforward. Into f3, and you put your queen to h3, and you try to push pawns. You castle and play g4, g5, dislodging this f6 knight and trying to put pressure on h7. That's the most common idea. So c5. If black plays c5, you have to take it. Takes, and you play d4, and you castle queenside. This is one of the flexibilities of the Jobava. So in the game, we can see in the database, Kovalev versus Savchenko. Black played queen e7, and after e takes d4, takes d4, there's check. White has very handy +6 advantage, and the game continued 19.7. And after rook takes d4, knight c7, rook h d1, white has got a very dominating position. So if you go back, instead of knight to c8, if black plays something like c5, you can take on c5, should take c5, and queen f, the same plan. Remember this position very well in these kind of structures. Knight on e5, bishop on f4, knight square bishop on d3, knight on c3, and you put your queen on f3 and transfer it to h3, putting pressure on h7. And that you should follow. If black plays bishop e4, castle, and after knight e6, you can either take on bishop to a6, or you can play queen to a3, or you can play rook a d1. This is also good, or you can play queen h3 immediately. This is also a very good plan. But Kovalev versus Belov continued bishop a6, pawn takes a6, and knight c6. White has got a plus position because of the destroyed structure of the black pawns, and queen b6, knight takes b4, rook f e1. If queen takes b2, then bishop b5 is unpleasant. So queen takes b4, you can play rook b1 also, which is not a bad move. But I think this plan of taking on a6 in this position is not that impressive. You can simply develop your pieces, rook a d1, and knight c5, knight bishop g5, and after knight takes d3, rook takes d3, bishop e7, and ultimately push the pawn. This is also a very typical idea in the Jubawa. If you have a rook on d5 and the queen is on d5, you can break with e4. So I hope you understood what to do against these kind of structures. And let's go back and let's see, instead of c6, black can play bishop to e7. This is what a lot of grandmasters would play. A lot of grandmasters games here are for versus Giri and Forest versus Giri, Jubawa versus Giri. So here, what white can do is, there are a few plans, but I think the best plan is to play knight to f3 here. And I recently played a game in this position, and black castle here, and my opponent actually played bishop to d7. So here in this position, after castle, I played h4, and this is the plan introduced by Arjun Erigesi, the Indian superstar grandmaster. And you can see a lot of games here. Arjun Erigesi versus Matt Machine. Actually, this was winning for Arjun, but the game ended in draw. And my opponent, the recent tournament I played Lisa. And here I think White can simply continue c3 um, and or a4 and after knight to e4 you can play knight to d2, dislodging that knight, and White has got plans to expand on the king side with h5 g4. So this is the modern theory in this variation. And instead of bishop d7, a lot of people might play c6, and after knight c3, queen b6 is an annoying move. There's c5 here. C5 is also good, and after h5, if cd ed, cd ed, and knight b8, so you can actually go queen d2 and long castle. After a6, you can either long castle or play d3. And this position of the symbols, something on or the classical, French defense position. So if black doesn't take on d4 and play something like bishop to d7, you can play h6. Yeah, this is the idea. And after g6, he takes bishop takes e6. This is a positional move, destroying the queen side. He takes e6 and d takes c5. Bishop takes c5 and bishop g5. And this is annoying actually. The bishop c7, queen d4 is pretty nasty. Knight e8, bishop e7, queen e7, and knight e5. And White has got a very healthy advantage, plus 2.3 according to Stockfish. White will now castle and try to attack g4, g5. A lot of ideas are there in this position. So we'll look at the final variation d4 and it's knight c3. So what I'm trying to do is basically give you some ideas and pointers where you have to prepare, and you can use the Lichess database and also the Stockfish engine on Lichess to analyze the games. There are many grandmaster games here, and it can hopefully. Or you can go to the Chess-based database, which is free login, is available online. I'll just quickly show you. Line database. So you can get this online database here, and you can create an account and start analyzing your games. And quite good actually. And you can get the evaluations from Komodo, Stockfish, and a lot of other engines also. You can add an engine if you want. You can add maybe I think you can add Stockfish 14, and also you can add maybe other engines as well. You have not. So this is possible to analyze the games like this. So I use mostly the Stockfish 14, which is built in Lichess. So let's look at this variation: bishop f4, e6, and after knight b5, bishop b4 check is possible. So you play c3 here and bishop a4, and a4. So this is a very important move that you have to remember. a4 instead of b4. b4 is not that great, and so you have to play a4 in this position. And after a6, you play b4. And after there are many variations here actually. So a takes b5, and you play a takes b5. And after b6, you play b takes a5 and b takes a4. And this is actually pretty good for white. Jobava versus, you can see this again, Jobava versus Keltman, and Rado Juices versus Reykjavik, and both games have been won by white. So there are other alternatives also. Bishop d7 is possible, and after e3, bishop takes b4. You can play rook takes a8, bishop takes c3, king e2, bishop e5, king f3, bishop takes f1, queen takes f1. And I think this position is actually pretty interesting, and it is plus for white. And white can castle. You can take queen b5 here, attacking the b7 pawn, and white has got a very healthy advantage. e6, you play g3 or g4, giving a left square for the white king. And after knight to e4, play h4, and you put a king on g2. And because this black cannot dialogue his pieces harmoniously, white is better here. And here's an exchange of as well. So once the pieces are out, white will have the advantage. But there are other variations also, like in this position after e3, c6 is possible, and you play b6, giving up a tempo, giving up a pawn for a tempo. And after queen takes b6, b takes a5, queen takes a5, a5 is not possible, I'm sorry, bishop b2, and you play knight to e2, castle, and bishop d6, rook e8, then bishop a3, queen b5, knight f4, queen takes a5, and bishop b2. You win the rook on a8. And this is a very painful line actually. So I think even knight to g3 was okay actually. Knight to g3 was also okay. a5, the rook will be lost. So you investigate this variation. I think there are other moves as well. There are many moves. You have to, when you prepare, you have to analyze all the possibilities for your opponent, and then only you will get into a conclusion, because that's very important to avoid surprises in the opening. And if your analysis is shallow, in the over-the-board game or in the internet game, your opponent might play something different, and you will end up in a difficult position. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. This was the part 1 of the Jubawa series. We looked at this variation d4, knight f6, knight c3, 5, and bishop f4, and here e6 and knight variation. If you enjoyed this video, if you like this video, please do share and subscribe to my channel. That's really help me to grow my channel. And I'll see you in the next Jubawa video.